Good. Good afternoon. This is Judge Alyssa Perez presiding over the 210th District Court criminal docket for September 20th, 2022. All matters being heard today are, being heard in accordance with all emergency orders and directives regarding COVID-19. In addition to that, we are streaming all matters live via YouTube for public viewing. Mr. Wonderful, would you call our next case, please?
Middle of page 11, Judge. May we have Carlos Alejandro Ortiz?
I'm gonna write out, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Roberts.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I want to apologize. I'm homesick today, but it's not COVID, but I'm okay.
Well, it's good to hear. Take it easy. Is that you, Mr. Ortiz?
Ma'am,
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Manapul.
In cause number 2022-0D00637, State of Texas versus Carlos Alejandro Ortiz. Announcement of counsel, please.
Samantha Roggenpath of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
Charles Roberts for the defendant. We're ready, Your Honor.
And do you recognize your client, Mr. Roberts? Oh, there he is. My little boxes are moving around. Okay, do you recognize your client?
I do, Your Honor.
Mr. Ortiz, we're scheduled today for a plea. Is that your understanding?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. I may need you to speak just a little bit louder, okay? It's kind of hard to hear you. Leave your mask on. Or, okay, if you feel comfortable, take it off. But just speak loud enough so we can hear you. The court reporter also needs to hear everything. If at any point you don't hear us, let me know and I will repeat anything that you did not catch. Sir, is that your understanding of what we're doing here today is for a plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I need you to raise your right hand. Sir, do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. You can put your hand down. Would you state your name and date of birth for the record?
Carlos Alejandro Ortiz, ma'am.
And your date of birth?
March 592, ma'am.
Okay, you can put your hand down, sir. In this case, you should have reviewed documents with your attorney, the first of which is marked as State's Exhibit number 1. Those are the plea papers in this case. Within that document, you're guaranteed certain rights, including the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Mr. Ortiz, do you recall reviewing State's Exhibit number 1, the plea papers, with your attorney and signing that document?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand everything contained within that document?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Roberts, have you had more than 10 days to prepare a defense in this case?
We have, Your Honor.
And did you explain the plea papers to your client?
I did, Your Honor.
I believe he has understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering his plea today.
I believe he does, Your Honor.
Mr. Ortiz, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Roberts, any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter his plea?
I believe he's competent, Your Honor.
Mr. Ortiz, have you ever been found mentally incompetent by any court?
No, ma'am.
Ever been examined by a doctor or psychiatrist who has found you mentally ill?
No, ma'am.
So based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your plea today. Sir, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you born?
Monterrey, Nuevo León,
And you became a citizen how long ago?
2018, ma'am.
Okay. So in this case, you were charged with 2 counts of failure to comply with the registration requirements, which are each 3rd-degree felonies. There's 2 counts, okay? As to count 1, what is your plea, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty, ma'am.
As to count 2, what is your plea, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty, ma'am.
Are you making each of your pleas freely and voluntarily?
Yes, ma'am.
I will find you are making your pleas freely and voluntarily. Ms. Raga, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, Your Honor. If the state of Texas were to proceed to trial in the cause number ending in 0637, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 28th day of July, 2021, the defendant, Carlos Ortiz, did then and there, while being a person required to register with local law enforcement authorities within the county where the defendant resided or intended to reside for more than 7 days to Wood, El Paso County because of reportable conviction. He intentionally or knowingly failed to report in person to the local law enforcement authorities and provide the authorities and officers with the person's anticipated move date and new address no later than 7 days before the intended change. Now moving on to count 2. If the state of Texas were to proceed to trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 13th day of August 2021 in El Paso County in the state of Texas, the defendant did then and there, while being a person required to register with local law enforcement authorities in the county where the defendant resided or intended to reside for more than 7 days to with El Paso County, was a reportable offense, and intentionally or knowingly failed to report in person to the local law enforcement authorities in which the defendant's new residence is located, and provided the authorities with proof of identity and proof of residence no later than the 7th day after changing the address, or the first date of the applicable law enforcement authorities by policy allowed the person to report. Your Honor, the recommendation is 3 years TDC on both counts. At this time, the state moves to enter into evidence States Exhibit 1 and 2 if there's no objections.
Any objection, Mr. Roberts?
No, Your Honor.
And is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
It's 3 years concurrent. That's my
Okay.
understanding.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Ortiz, is that your understanding of the plea agreement as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, states 1 and 2 are admitted. Understand, Mr. Ortiz, that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your plea. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal this case except on matters raised by written motion and ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document I'm going to ask you about is the 1-page document entitled The Trial Court Certification of Your Right to Appeal. It is a document that explains your appeal rights because this is a plea bargained or negotiated case. You do not have an automatic right of appeal. Mr. Ortiz, do you recall reviewing the trial court certification with your attorney and signing that document?
Yes, Your Honor.
It was signed by your attorney and signed by the court as well. So on your pleas of guilty and the evidence introduced, I will accept your pleas and at this time find the evidence substantiates your guilt. In count 1, well, actually, as to both counts, we'll find you guilty of the offense of failure to comply with the duty to register. And I will sentence you according to the plea agreement at 3 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division. Each of those sentences for each count will run concurrent with one another and you will receive credit for any and all time that you have served. Is there anything further, Ms. Rago or Mr. Roberts?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Good luck to you, Mr. Ortiz. Mr. Roberts, if you don't have anything else, you're excused.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Annex, staying on page 11, Judge, on top of page 11.
Mhm.
Annex, may we have Roberto Hernandez?
Yes, sir, he's coming.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
In cause number 2021 0D02898, Texas versus Roberto Hernandez. Announcement of council, please.
Samantha Rogg on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
Your Honor, Leonard Morales on behalf of Mr. Hernandez.
Okay, and we're here for a probation status hearing. Mr. Hernandez is appearing remotely from the jail annex. Ms. Pineda, are you covering this one?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you go ahead and give me an update? I'm just getting the case summary.
Your Honor, Mr. Hernandez was placed on probation on May 10th, 2022 for 3 years deferred for assault, family violence, household member, previous conviction. Fast forward to August 17, 2022. Mr. Hernandez was arrested once again for assault, family violence, household member, previous conviction on the same complaining witness. As of right now, he still has his TAP assessment pending. Community service hasn't been worked on. He has provided 2 drug tests, Your Honor, which have yielded with negative results. And he has not completed family violence courses.
Ms. Rago, do we have a new case coming down?
Yes, Your Honor. We recently got it indicted. It's ending in 3199.
Okay. 3199?
Yes, Your Honor. Right now it's set for arraignment October the 4th.
Okay. Mr. Morales, I can't imagine. I'm not seeing it. Maybe if I look up specifically with that case number, I'll see it, but I don't see it, reflecting on the entry in Odyssey for the probation case. I gotta think you're gonna be appointed if you haven't already. Do you know if you've received?
I have,
Okay.
Judge, I've been appointed on it. I have the jail magistrate's appointment. I was just waiting to see whether it was actually going to get indicted or not.
Okay,
Oh.
so my thought is before we go anywhere is to give you a minute maybe on that case. But what do you want to do? We're just set for a probation status hearing.
Well, Judge, I think that at this point, I'd ask the court to consider maybe we start talking about what we're going to do ultimately, because otherwise, there's no motion to revoke at this point. There's just a violation notice. And the other case is obviously just an accusation. I don't believe that there's a bond on this, so I'm not sure if you're inclined to set a bond at this on the probation case at this point, Judge, or whether we want to put him on some other kind of intensive supervision in the interim while we deal with the new felony case.
Okay, so file your motion on the bond on the probation case. We're not set for anything else. Myrna, are you seeing the new case? The one ending 3199?
Let me check, dude.
Okay, my thought is this, that for that October 4th setting, I don't know if that's let me see. Yeah, that's a Tuesday, that we do that at 3 p.m. anticipating that we'll have your motion to, I guess, set bond to be heard at that time.
Your Honor, if I may,
Yes, ma'am.
there is a motion to adjudicate filed.
Yeah, that was filed on the 24th of August.
Yes.
Okay, I don't have a copy of it, Judge. That's why I was asking.
It's reflected in the filings. I think generally the defense attorneys don't get access to it. I don't know if Ms. Rago, if you could email that to Mr. Morales.
Yes, Your Honor. I'll do that
Okay.
right now.
Yeah, that's been a disconnect for like 20 years, Judge. where we
Yeah,
never
it
get
was one of the
copies
most
it.
frustrating things when I was a defense attorney is that you kind of want to know that what that motion says.
Mhm.
So file your motion on the bond. Myrna, let's set this for 3 o'clock on October 4th.
Yes, ma'am. The other case doesn't show.
Maybe it's that new.
Okay.
Right. I had it as a P file, Judge, but I hadn't seen that it was indicted yet, but I'll take Ms. Rago at her word.
Yeah, it doesn't come up for me either. In any event, especially if you want me to look at that bond as well, file your motions.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Judge, we're gonna need to look at both of those, so.
File your motions. Thank
accusation.
you.
All right, Judge.
Thank you very much. Who's next? Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Staying on page 11, Judge. Annex, may we have Adrian Lozano?
Good afternoon, Judge.
Mr. Diddy, do you not have a functional camera?
No, I can get on my phone. This has got something wrong with it. I can see. I tried to see if it works, but it just doesn't. Do you want me to get on my phone, Judge?
I need you to have a functional camera. So for now, we'll come back to you. Who's next, Mr. Murphy?
Okay, I can call on my phone, okay, Judge?
I need you to have a functioning camera. If that's what you have on your phone, that'll work.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Who's next?
On page
Mr.
13,
Lozano, we're gonna come back to you, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
top of page 13, Judge. Annex, may we have Jesus Soto?
Soto's at the downtown facility.
Okay, downtown, do you have Mr. Soto there?
No, ma'am, I have Garcia Jesse. Mr. Soto's on another floor.
Okay, so let's go with Jesse Garcia. Do we have the attorney? Public
We do, Your Honor.
defender?
Mr. Hernandez.
Okay, go ahead and call it.
In cause number 2020-0D03257, State of Texas versus Jesse Garcia. Announcement of council, please.
Samantha Rock on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
Edward Hernandez on behalf of Mr. Jesse Garcia, ready to proceed, Your Honor.
And do you recognize your client appearing from the downtown jail, Mr. Hernandez?
I do, Your Honor. I literally just met with him, I'm gonna say yesterday, day before yesterday. Yesterday,
Okay, so we're scheduled for a pre-revocation hearing. Let me get the report. Miss Carla, did I get one on Mr. Garcia? Yes, I did. Sorry, if I had to scroll a little further. There was a lot of summaries. All right, let me see. So he's on for 5 years. Rested on the KPS. Oh, so he's just failed to report since last year. That's the nuts and bolts of it. Mr. Hernandez. Well, let me ask, Ms. Rago, is there any kind of rec on Mr. Garcia's case?
Currently, it would be 18 months in the state jail, and we'll do 3 to do on the 3rd and the 2nd, Your Honor.
Okay, Your Honor, and I'm sorry that I'm a little confused, and so was my client yesterday, because it looks to me like they have, like there are, I don't know if they're new cases or the same cases showing up twice. Is that, there aren't pre-file numbers yet, so I can't tell. Are there, but they're 2021. Are there new 2021 cases?
I'm not seeing it, but I'll leave that to Ms. Rago to answer definitively. These look like.
So I see it's a 2021 P file, possession less than 2 ounces. I'm assuming that's going to go away. I'm pulling up the possession controlled substance BG3, 3 to 28 grams. And portal's being slow.
I see a possession 4 to 200. That's what I'm curious about. Is that and I don't know if that's what he pleaded to before or if this is a whole different.
I show that as being declined. Is that what do you see that as well? Are we talking about the one where I guess the arrest date was, or date of incident was November 17, 2020? Is that the one you're talking about, Mr. Hernandez?
I don't know, Your Honor. I don't get that much information. That's why my client had no clue what I was talking about. So I'm asking the state, maybe they have some idea what they're talking about.
So the 3 to 28 grams, that was declined. I'm looking at the. Okay, so I see an email. It was declined 2021 P file 2504, declined P file 5654, and then also decline P file 05653. So I believe that was all 3 of them, unless I'm missing one.
Just looking at the jailing, I think those are the ones that I see that she's talking about. It kind of came in the bunch that he had when he pled on one of these. Well, one of the ones that he's on probation for, which he's on probation. And I see declines, on a possession of dangerous drug, possession of marijuana under 2, possession of a controlled substance penalty group 3 less than 28, a 1 to 4, and the 4 to 200. All of those were either declined or dismissed. And the only thing I show him being booked on are the warrants on or the KPSs from the MTR on this case. That's all I see. Ms. Melendez, does that conform? There's no other new cases or anything like that? Is she on?
Yes, I am,
Oh,
Judge.
there you are. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm seeing that there's no new cases.
No new cases. There's nothing except this bunch of cases that we have on the pre-rebel.
Really.
Correct.
And we're trying to revoke him on,
I'm not reporting for a year and a plus.
I'm sure there's a perfectly good reason, Your Honor. I was just trying to get through all the other stuff I couldn't figure out. But let me talk to my client and I'll reach out to the state. I'm sure we can reach a rational, reasonable result.
We're going to come back in 2 weeks.
Yes, Your Honor.
Pre-rebel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, now we can go back to, I don't know if it was to Miss Arditi's client at the annex until the downtown gets squared away.
Am I excused, Your Honor?
Are you? Is that all your clients for today, Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, as far as I know, Your Honor.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you too. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Counsel.
And next, may we have Mr. Lozano back?
Yes, sir. He's coming.
Mr. Lozano, is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
In cause number 2022-0D01398, State of Texas versus Adrian Lozano. Announcement of council, please.
Samantha Rogg on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
Need you to unmute, Ms. Arditi.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Did you hear my announcement?
No?
Oh, Regina Arditi on behalf of Adrian Lozano. And what I was going to ask the state is if they had filed a motion to revoke, or because they had picked him up on a, well, he was on parole, excuse me. He was on parole for a conviction of evading arrest and detention. Although he has this, which is failure to register, or failure to comply as a sex offender duty to register.
So before we start answering, first of all, your client is not on probation here.
Okay.
He has been charged by indictment back on April 26th with the instant offense. Have we returned an arraignment, a waiver of arraignment in this case? Let me stop. Ms. Hernandez, Myrna,
Yes, ma'am.
have we sent out the waiver of arraignment to council?
I'm checking.
I have not sent one back, Your Honor, so I have not sent it back. I will get it to my client. You
No,
can
no, no,
send
hold
me-
on. When did you receive it, Ms. Arditi?
Don't have the date here.
If you can look it up, and I'll wait for Ms. Hernandez to respond as well.
Judge, the arraignment setting is since back in June. That should have already been sent out. The packets go out every 3 weeks.
If you can, Myrna, I don't know if you have a record of that, of when and how it was transmitted to Ms. Arditi.
Let me check on that.
I did receive it, Your Honor. I was looking in the file. I did receive it, but I had not gotten it to my client. So that is my, that's on me, Your Honor.
Did you appear for his arraignment back on June 2nd?
I don't recall. I don't have that here, Your Honor.
We then were set for a judges conference on July 21st. Did you appear for that? Mr. Marufo, if you could also check your records.
Yes, Judge.
I show in terms of the records, the order of court setting for the arraignment was transmitted via email to arditi2law@gmail on May 2nd at 3:03 p.m. Within that order of court setting, that set the arraignment for June 2nd, so that was 30 days notice. Within that order of court setting, the order to the attorney and for Mr. Lozano's information as well is that both the order of court setting that includes the trial track court settings and the waiver of arraignment were included. Let me keep going. We then had our arraignment on June 2nd, judges conference on July 22nd.
Judge,
Yes, ma'am.
the actual arraignment packet was sent May 6th at
May
2:38 p.m.
Okay, so that was the day after. Did you receive it, Ms. Arditi? You said you did.
Yes, I did receive it, Your Honor. I just had not gotten it signed, and I had forgotten to get it signed by my client. So that is on me, Your Honor. That's not on my client.
Have you met with your client?
I have met with my client, but I need to get him to sign I need to get him to sign everything, Your Honor.
Mr. Marufo, what do your records reflect in terms of Ms. Arditi's appearance on both June 2nd and July 21st?
On June 2nd, Judge, I called her office and notified her that she needed to notify her through her assistant to log in. And they said that she was going to log in. She never did. I called her at 10:30 when her hearing was at 9:30.
Ms. Arditi?
I'm checking my schedule to see if I might have been in another hearing. This is on May the 30th, Your Honor.
No, the arraignment was on June 2nd,
Okay.
and then the judges' conference was on July 21st.
I do have that, and I do have another hearing that I had 2 hearings that morning, so I might have been at another hearing. I don't know if my office notified the court or not.
Ms. Hernandez, Mr. Marufo, did we ever receive any notification at any time for Ms. Arditi's non-appearance on June 2nd?
I'm checking, Judge.
No, Judge, I did not receive a notice.
When you called my office, did they tell you I had another hearing? I was in another hearing?
Ms. Arditi, if you've received notice of the hearing, I appreciate that everyone has busy schedules. Does not relinquish your duty to appear on behalf of your client.
I understand that, Your Honor.
Well, I think that's the question, because I want to now go to July 21st. Myrna, can you see when the notice of hearing for the judges' conference for July 21st came out?
I'm checking, Judge. Judge, that's part of the court settings that were issued with the arraignment packet on 5/6 that were emailed to her with the waiver, the court settings, the discovery order, and the copy of the indictment.
Okay. Mr. Marufo, do your records reflect that Ms. Arditi appeared on that date?
She did appear that day, Judge. She was having audio problems though. She couldn't connect. She ended up calling Ms. Rago after that. I don't know if Ms. Rago did speak with her via public service.
Okay. Mr. Lozano, have you had any contact with your attorney? I can't hear you.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Arditi? Are you court appointed?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have anything else on this case or any other explanation why you didn't
No,
appear?
Your Honor.
Okay.
On the May, it would have been because I had that other hearing, Your Honor. It wouldn't have been that I would have just not shown up.
Okay. And you have had no contact with Mr. Lozano, is that correct?
Well, I had spoken with him at one time a while back when he was first appointed, but I had not gotten a chance to see him. I have another appointment to see him tomorrow too.
How have you made that appointment? Is that by phone? How is that?
That is on the jail visits, audio visits.
Mr. Lozano, I don't know that I need to hear anything else. I am going to remove Ms. Arditi as court-appointed counsel for failing to appear and for failing to contact Mr. Lozano. I'm going to go ahead and appoint at this point the Public Defender's Office. Thank you for your assistance, Ms. Arditi.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Myrna, if you would provide me with the order removing appointed counsel. Mr. Lozano, I'm going to, unfortunately for today, put you at the back of the line for now, so we can issue the new order appointing attorney in your case. And then I will touch base with them today, but you're probably going to go to the end of the line for now. Okay?
Yes,
Ms. Arditi?
I could not hear you at all, Judge. You were muted.
I was not muted.
Oh,
I
I
am
couldn't-
explaining, if you did not hear me, I am removing you as the attorney in this case, and I am appointing the Public Defender's Office.
Okay, Your Honor.
I will file the corresponding order accordingly in this case. I am informing Mr. Lozano that I am attempting right now to get the order appointing to the public defender so they can immediately start to act on his case. He has been in custody for 190 days as of last week without even the waiver of arraignment or anything being discussed with him. That is a serious concern to the court.
Okay,
So,
Your
Mr. Lozano, the court is on top of it. We'll be right with you. Thank you, Ms. Arditi.
Thank you.
All right. Who's next?
Annex, may we, on page 13, Judge? Annex, may we have Tellez, Madeline?
Go ahead.
Because number 2022-0D0-3408, State of Texas versus Madeline Castilla Calista Tellez, announcement of council, please.
Samantha Rock on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
Robin Norris from Ms. Tejas, Your Honor, we're ready.
Oh, okay, and we're scheduled for a bond hearing. Ms. Diaz is appearing from the jail annex. Mr. Norris, you may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. I think Madeline's been in custody about 3 weeks on a state jail felony, possession of under a gram of methamphetamine. She has a few prior offenses of that kind and some other misdemeanor offenses in the past. She's a native El Pasoan and has lots of family here. She's actually in custody for these 3 weeks on a pretty low bond to begin with, a $1,000 cash or surety bond, which she's just not able to afford. She's been homeless mostly in the past. A little surprising, really. She has good family support in the community, but they just apparently can't find $100. So we're asking the court to release her on a personal bond, a PR bond. And in the amount, $1,000 seems like it would still be acceptable. She's not a flight risk, and I expect we'll be able to settle this case pretty quickly.
Ms. Rago?
Your Honor, so she was initially on PR bond. That was February of 2022. And she failed to report until July 14, 2022. So she didn't report for 5 months, and that's the state's concern, Your Honor.
What happened there, Mr. Norris?
Yeah, I really don't know. And I think that I was actually appointed. Can't remember whether I was a successor appointment here. I may very well have been. Let's see. No, I had her all along. I can't explain that, Your Honor. I think that she needs another chance to show she can do better.
I understand. What does not bode well, so your client understands, is that long period of time for which she failed to report. And considering the bond being what it is, I think it's reasonable. I think $1,000 is reasonable. If you get some new information, Mr. Norris, please do not hesitate to come back on the bond. We are not set for jury trial until May of next year. So we have the arraignment coming up on October 4th. If you need to come back on the bond, file your motion. But the request for a reduction is denied.
I think we have filed a waiver of arraignment, so.
You have. Thank you for that.
All right, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Who do I keep hearing?
Annex, may we have Diane Williams?
I'm sorry, who is this?
Diane Williams, Judge, on page 3, bottom of page 13, excuse me. In cause number 2018-0D04287, State of Texas versus Diane Nicole Williams. Announcement of council, please.
Samantha Rock on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
I believe this is my client, Judge. This is
Mhm.
Joe Rosales.
Okay, we're set for a bond hearing.
Actually, I don't think we are, Judge. I just got notice of this a week ago. we filed a motion to set
Ay,
bond.
perdón. Yes, I misread the date, Mr. Rosales. You filed a motion to set bond on the date on today. And it was
Yeah,
set for free revel.
Yes, we've been working on the case this last week and we did set it. I don't know if you want to take it up today. I'd appreciate that. I'm sure my client would too.
Well, let me see, Miss Rago. You're entitled to 3 days. They filed it today. What's her bond, Mr. Rosales?
I don't know, Judge.
Miss Melendez, do you happen to have the bond?
He has
on-
no bond.
No bond. So this is a probation case?
Yeah, she's on probation for delivery controlled substance, 1 gram to 4, on 7 years community supervision. She's been living out of El Paso. She's been living in Montgomery County, and I've been in communication with her aunt, who she was living with out there with her probation transfer. And her aunt has a place for her to come back to if the court would even entertain that. I have looked at the revel, and there's a good number of violations alleged. So I need to visit with my client on that, depending on what the state says. But her aunt is Rose Painter.
Okay, so let me stop right there. Maybe it would be wise to just have our bond hearing in a week. It doesn't sound very good. We have it set. Let me ask, Ms. Rago, have you reviewed this case? Not in terms of the bond, but in terms of anything else, and then I'll ask Carla to chime in.
In terms of everything else, not in terms of the bond, Your Honor.
Okay, why don't you give me a little summary of the state's take on this?
So it looks like she's on probation, disregarded instructions, tested positive on 7/5/2019. Had an excuse for the UAs that were between 7/2019 and 6/2022. Failed to report April, July, August of 2021. Completed substance abuse awareness in 2/20/2022. They've been testing her. She tested positive. That was 7/15/2019. And then recommendation is alcohol assessment to determine treatment options.
That's the probation recommendation, Carla?
Yes, Your Honor. It is my understanding, as per the report and confirming with the probation officer, that the department did request for Ms. Williams to be screened while in custody. However, that has not happened just yet. We're still pending a date for this assessment while she's in custody to determine any other treatment options.
And they're aware.
Okay. So in terms of the bond, we'll go ahead and wait for our actual bond hearing. I don't know, you're telling me there's not even a date? We don't have a timetable? Like, would we know something by the time we have our bond hearing next week? Carla?
Your Honor, before we started this docket, I did reach out to the probation officer, and she let me know that they requested this since 9/15, September 15th. But I will let them know if they can get something going before next week.
Yes, let's do that. Let's do that. Because the recommendation is what it is, Mr. Rosales, the state is not ready to go on the bond reduction. I think we can probably, well, let's keep our fingers crossed. We'll have some more information from probation on that assessment, and we should be able to move forward next week. If not, for sure, we will address the bond. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thanks
That's fair.
very much. I'll see you next week, Ms. Williams. Thank you.
Oh, can I tell my client to call me, collect right now, Judge, so I can talk to her today?
It says that the calls are unauthorized.
Oh, I'll check on that. Give it about an hour and try again. Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, Mr. Rosales. Who's next?
I got Rocha downtown, ma'am, Jesus, whenever you guys are ready for him.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. On top of page 13, Judge. In cause number 2021-0D01829, State of Texas versus Jesus Soto. Announcement of council, please.
Samantha Rogg on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
And Luis Janis on behalf of Mr. Soto, we're ready as well, Your Honor.
Is that your client, Mr. Yanez? I thought I heard Rocha.
Yes, ma'am, that was my fault. It's Soto.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. And I want to advise you that he told me that he prefers Spanish as well.
Ándale. Okay, so we need to get an interpreter. Bear with us, Mr. Yanez. Hopefully we can get somebody pretty quickly.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Page 10, Judge, middle of page 10.
Mhm.
Annex, may we have Noel Cooley?
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon, Ms. Pages. All right, and Mr. Coley is appearing from the jail annex. We're scheduled today for a probation status hearing. I think the court is kind of up to, well, maybe there's some new update. Carla, is there a new update with respect to Mr. Coley?
No, Your Honor, the last hearing was held back on August 9, 2022. That was an in-person hearing. And Mr. Coley failed to appear in court. That's when the bench warrant was issued, and he's been in custody.
Okay, Ms. Pages, what are we gonna do with Mr. Coley?
Judge, I know that back on August 9th, you had made mention of possibly placing him somewhere, just because he did have quite a bit of missed appointments and just general non-compliance. We kind of left it at there. I know the bench warrant issued for his non-attendance, so I just kind of wanted to explore what the court was thinking, if the court is considering like the HRTC or something of that nature.
I don't know what to do with Mr. Coley because and maybe Carly, you'll tell me something different. I feel like most of the issues may not have been something that we can really, or I can really justify BHRTC as much as it is kind of an overall just inability to comply. The recommendation is only weekly reporting from probation, and I'll just tell you that's not where I am because I think we spent quite a bit of time trying to work with Mr. Coley for different things. Does he want to stay on probation, Ms. Pages?
I believe he does. Judge. That's my understanding that he does want to stay on probation. If, you know, and also if the court can, just to remind the court that regarding his mental health issues, Judge, he is diagnosed with major depressive disorder, recurrence with psychotic features and anxiety. He is on medications. I believe he may also have bipolar. I did have our social worker meet with him and talk to him to try to, you know, work with him and provide some sort of assistance. But then he just didn't report to the court as you had instructed him to. But it's my understanding that he wishes to continue on probation, Judge. I think sending somebody to TDC should be the last resort, Judge, especially with his mental health.
So let me, only because I know, well, at least my experience has been that the public defender's office has, you know, more resources than the average defense attorney, so to speak, in this area. So I'm going to kind of put it in y'all's court. Come up with a plan. See if there is something that your social worker can come up with, because to me, weekly reporting doesn't even come close to addressing our issues with Mr. Coley. I don't know if we ever, was he already on the mental health caseload? I feel like yes, but no, is that Carla?
What happened is, so if we rewind a little more towards earlier this year, which was, we started this back in March 2022. Mr. Coley was released from custody. He was to attend EHN services.
I see it.
You know, he had his caseworker and everything. He was screened for mental health caseload through probation. However, he did not qualify to be in that caseload.
Yes, I remember.
But he was referred, and he still had his caseworker, he had Ozar and everything, but he stopped showing up. He wouldn't show up. So then we came back to court. There was issues with him drinking alcohol. He was to get a monitor. He didn't follow through with the monitor. He was referred again to try to go back to treatment, to a counselor. He just, Mr. Foley unfortunately doesn't follow through. He has been given the opportunities to go, and he's been referred to different services. However, there's always something that comes up, whether it's he doesn't have a ride, he sleeps through appointments and he forgets about them.
That's all right.
That's been the issue that we've had with Mr. Coley, unfortunately.
So if PDs can fill in the blanks there and get him some assistance in, I guess, meeting the court's concerns that he can be compliant, then I'll look at keeping him on probation. So we'll come back in 30 days.
Yes, Judge, I will meet with him and then I will have the social worker meet with him again and see what we can do.
All right, thank you very much. All right, who's next?
Bottom of page 12, Judge. And next, may we have Sonia Rascon?
Ms. Rascon, Mr. Anchondo.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon. Let's go ahead and get started.
In cause number 2020-0D01029 and 2021-0D02600, State of Texas versus Sonia Veronica Rascon. Announcement of council, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Ray Dick for the state. The state is ready to proceed.
Christopher Anchondo on behalf of Ms. Rascon, we are ready, Your Honor.
And Ms. Rascon is appearing from the jail annex. We are scheduled for a plea in each of these cases. Ms. Rascon, is that your understanding of what we're doing today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so since we're going to get started on these pleas, I need to swear you in. Would you raise your right hand, please? Ma'am, do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. You can put your hand down. If you would, please state your name and date of birth for the record.
Sonia Veronica Rascon, 5582.
Ms. Rascon, I'm having a little trouble hearing you, so I need you to raise the volume, and I don't know if you could maybe take a step closer to the camera. Would you repeat that, please?
Sonia Veronica Rascon, 5582.
5582?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Rascon, as I mentioned, scheduled for pleas in each of these cases. There are documents you should have reviewed with your attorney, one set for each case, the first of which is marked as State's Exhibit number 1. Those are the plea papers for each of these cases. Within those documents, you're guaranteed certain rights, including the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Ms. Rascon, do you recall reviewing the plea papers, State's Exhibit 1, with your attorney and signing those documents?
Yes, ma'am.
Understood everything that was contained in those documents?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Anchondo, have you had more than 10 days to prepare defenses in each of these cases?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you explain the plea papers to your client?
I did.
Do you believe she's understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering her plea today?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Rascon, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Anchondo, any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter her pleas?
None whatsoever.
Ms. Rascon, have you ever been found mentally incompetent by any court?
No, ma'am.
Ever been examined by a doctor or psychiatrist who has found you mentally ill?
No, ma'am.
So based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your pleas today. Ma'am, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you born?
Here in El Paso, Texas.
Okay. In cause number 2020-0D01029, you are charged with the offense of manufacture or delivery of a controlled substance in penalty group 1 in an amount between 4 and 200 grams. Ma'am, to that charge, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
In cause number 2021-0D02600, you are charged with the second-degree felony offense of possession of a controlled substance in penalty group 1 in an amount between 4 and 200 grams. To that charge, ma'am, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Are you making each of your pleas freely and voluntarily?
Yes, ma'am.
I will find you are making your pleas freely and voluntarily. Mr. Duke, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Had the state of Texas proceeded the trial in cause number that ends in 1029, the state of Texas would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 30th day of September 2019, The defendant did then and there knowingly possess with intent to deliver a controlled substance, namely methamphetamine, in an amount of 4 grams or more, but less than 200 grams. This time I'd offer that summary. States 1, the plea papers, the 3914, and the trial court certification of rights.
Any
Had this,
I was gonna let him finish on both, but no objection on that one.
States 1, 2, and the remainder are all admitted.
all right, thank you, Your Honor. Had the state of Texas proceeded in cause number that ends in 2600, the state of Texas would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 2nd day of March 2021, the defendant did then and there intentionally or knowingly possess a controlled substance in penalty group 1, namely methamphetamine, in an amount of 4 grams or more, but less than 200 grams. We would offer that summary. States 1, the plea papers, the 3914, and the trial court certification of rights.
No objections.
So in that case, States 1, 2, the trial court certification and this summary are admitted as well. What is the recommendation, Mr. Duke?
In exchange for the defendant's plea of guilty, the state of Texas is recommending 7 years to do with credit for all time served, both causes to run concurrent with one another.
Mr. Anchondo, is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
That is, Your Honor.
And Ms. Rascon, is that your understanding as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Understand that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your pleas. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal these cases except on matters raised by written motion and ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document has been admitted into evidence, but I need to ask you about it, Ms. Rascon. It's the trial court certification of your right to appeal. It is a document that explains your appeal rights. Because these are plea bargained or negotiated cases, you do not have an automatic right of appeal. Ms. Rascon, do you recall reviewing the trial court certification with your attorney and signing those?
Yes, I do.
They were signed by your attorney and signed by the court as well. So on your pleas of guilty and the evidence introduced, I will accept your pleas and at this time find the evidence substantiates your guilt. In cause number 2020-0D01029, I will find you guilty of manufacture, delivery of a controlled substance in penalty group 1 in an amount between 4 and 200 grams and sentence you to 7 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division, where you will receive credit for any and all time that you have served. And in cause number 2021-0D02600, I will find you guilty of possession of a controlled substance in penalty group 1 in an amount between 4 and 200 grams, and also assess you your punishment at 7 years confinement pursuant to the plea agreement. These sentences will run concurrent with one another, and you will receive credit for any and all time that you have served. Is there anything further, Mr. Duke or Mr. Anchondo?
Nothing further from the defense.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duke. Good luck to you, Ms. Rascon.
May I be excused, Your Honor?
You may. Thank you,
May I
Mr.
be
Anchondo.
excused? Thank
Appreciate
you.
your help. Thank you. Who's next?
Going back to Mr. Soto, Judge.
Okay. That's Mr. Yanez.
Yes, Mr. Yanes with Soto, Jesus Soto.
Okay, if we can get the court interpreter set up. Hi, Mr. Cifuentes.
Hola, ¿cómo están?
Very well, thank you. So I think downtown we need to start the function, and then downtown, if you'll select Spanish.
There you go. There you go, Judge.
All right, go ahead.
Jesús Soto. Sí.
Cause number 2021-0D01829, State of Texas versus Jesus Soto. Announcement of counsel, please.
Samantha Rogg on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
Mr. Yanez, will you select English, please?
Sí.
Did I not?
I pressed the wrong button. I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right, and Mr. Yanez is here representing Mr. Soto. Mr. Soto is appearing from the downtown jail and also utilizing the assistance of a court interpreter, Mr. Jesus Cifuentes. We're set for a pre-revocation hearing. I've gotten away from my case summaries. Ms. Carla, are you covering this one?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, can you go ahead and give me the update, please, while I find the report?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Soto was placed on probation November 2nd, 2021 of deadly conduct discharge firearm for 5 years straight probation. He was placed into the gang intervention caseload. He failed to report June, July, August 2022. And thereafter, he was rearrested September 5th, 2022. There are,
What was the arrest for?
there's 3 rearrests, Judge. They are possession marijuana, less than 5 pounds over 4 ounces, possession controlled substance, and another unlawful possession of firearm 5 pellet. Probation wise, Your Honor, he was admitted to TAP for treatment. He also started receiving services through EHN. There was a positive drug test, Your Honor, for marijuana back on May 11, 2022. And unfortunately, since he stopped reporting to the probation officer, he was also discharged from TAP unsuccessfully for non-compliance and was also dropped from EHN due to non-compliance. And there is a motion to revoke filed as of August 9, 2022.
Okay, all right. Let me ask Ms. Rago, do we know anything about the new cases? I'm not seeing them.
I'm not seeing them either, Your Honor.
Your Honor, they have not been indicted yet. He is being held on bonds, a total, I believe, 95,000 between all 3 of them. And that's what we have. We're trying to get those cases either indicted or dropped.
Okay, so you're appointed, Mr. Yanez?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm appointed on those as well.
Okay, so in terms of our pre-revo, obviously the cases are going to factor in some senses, and we don't have any future settings. I guess do what you need to do, Mr. Yanez, in terms of how we're going to get those new cases. Obviously, just in terms of the compliance history, setting those new arrests aside, not a very good report. Okay. The recommendation, I'll tell you from probation, is that he continue in the gang intervention caseload. I'm not on board with that at this point. So let's have a better picture. Is there anything you wanted to represent to the court at this time, Mr. Yanez? If not, I'm gonna schedule for another pre-revo in 30 days. If you want to file something with respect to the bond or anything else, we can probably get you a setting sooner.
Yes, Your Honor, we're filing a motion for the court to consider setting a bond in this case. He's being held without a bond in discharge. Okay. And like I told the court, I'm trying to get those 3 cases indicted or dropped.
Sure. For my purposes, I'm going to reset for 30 days, but as soon as you send us your bond request, then we'll get you set, okay?
Mr.
Yes,
Yanez, if you have the P files, can you please send them to me? I don't even show the case on there, and I can request them to get presented.
Ms.
Yes,
Melendez?
they're not P files, but they're JMAG warrants. I'll send them to you right now.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm
I
only
was
seeing
going to ask
them.
Ms. Melendez if she could see them because I don't see them either.
No, Judge, I'm only seeing them as just the JMAT warrants at the moment.
Under the gelling, but I'll have you set for at least 30 days.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I just texted you through the chat, Ms. Rago.
I see them. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yanez. If I don't see you sooner, we'll come back in 30 days.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will be excused.
You may. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Soto. Does anyone else need the assistance of the, well, I think I have to get off the. Does anybody, can we turn off the function? Does anybody else need the assistance of Mr. Cifuentes today? I actually only see Ms. Pages.
I don't believe so, Judge. I had asked her the annex earlier.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Mr. Cifuentes.
Yes, ma'am. We'll see you next time.
Take care. Who's next?
Bottom of page 11, Judge. Annex, we have Anthony Ramirez.
Yes, sir. It's coming up.
Oh, and we're going to need to come back to Mr. Lozano.
Because number 2022-0D0 2210 and 2022 0D0 2230 and 2022 0D0 2221 and 2019 0D0 4515 and 2022 0D0 2208 and 2022 0D0 1586, State of Texas versus Anthony Ramirez. Announcement of council, please.
Samantha Rogg on behalf of the state. State's ready, Your Honor.
And Miranda Pages for Mr. Anthony Ramirez, ready, Your Honor.
Mr. Oh, there you, golly, everything's moving. Mr. Ramirez, can you hear us okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're scheduled for pleas and one case. Oh, let me see which one. Cause number, the 2019 0D04515 is also scheduled for a plea of true. Is that your understanding of what we're doing here today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm going to be asking you questions about these cases regarding your plea. So that means I need to swear you in. Would you raise your right hand, please? Sir, do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. You can put your hand down. Would you please state your name and date of birth for the record?
Anthony Ramirez, 5987.
Mr. Ramirez, as I mentioned, all of these cases are scheduled for pleas or a plea of true. So I'm only going to reference right now the plea cases, which are all but one. Okay, so in those cases, there are documents you should have reviewed with your attorney marked as State's Exhibit number 1. Those are the plea papers. In each of those documents, you're guaranteed certain rights to include the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Mr. Ramirez, do you recall reviewing State's Exhibit number 1 for each of these cases with your attorney and signing those documents?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand everything contained within those documents?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Pages, have you had more than 10 days to prepare defenses for each of these cases?
Yes, Judge.
And did you explain the plea papers to your client?
I did.
You believe he has understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering his pleas today?
I do, Judge.
Mr. Ramirez, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Pages, any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter his pleas?
I don't have any such reason, Judge.
Mr. Ramirez, have you ever been found mentally incompetent by any court?
No, ma'am.
Ever been examined by a doctor or psychiatrist who has found you mentally ill?
No, ma'am.
So based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your pleas. Sir, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you born?
Here in El Paso, Texas.
Okay. In cause number ending 2210, well, actually, let me see, maybe I can shorten this. Are they all state jail felony thefts? So
yes.
In each of these cases, Mr. Ramirez, you were charged with a state jail felony theft of property in an amount less than $2,500 with 2 or more previous convictions. In cause number ending 2210, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
In 2230, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
In cause number ending 2221, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
In cause number ending 2208, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
And in cause number ending 1586, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Are you making each of those pleas freely and voluntarily?
Excuse me?
Are you making each of those pleas freely and voluntarily?
Yes, ma'am.
I will find you are making your pleas freely and voluntarily. Ms. Rago, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, Your Honor. If the state of Texas were to proceed to trial and cause number ending in 2210, the state of Texas would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 24th day of March 2022 in El Paso County in the state of Texas, the defendant did then and there unlawfully appropriate by acquiring and otherwise exercising control of property other than real property to with clothing, jackets of value of less than $2,500 from Star Western Wear or Alyssa Gallegos, the owner thereof, with the intent to deprive the owner of said property without the effective consent of the owner. And it's further presented in to the said court that before the commission of the offense alleged above, the defendant was convicted twice of the grade of theft on the 28th day of April 2017 in County Court at Law number 4 in El Paso County, Texas, under cause number 2016 0C1 0055, and the defendant was convicted of the offense of theft of property more than $100, but less than $750 on the 24th day of May, 2018, in El Paso, in County Court at Law number 4 in El Paso County, Texas, in 2017 0C7907, and that was a final conviction. Your Honor, will defense stipulate to the 2 prior convictions going forward? Would that be possible, Ms. Pages?
We stipulate to States Exhibits 1 and 2 on each and every one of the cases that Mr. Ramirez just pled on.
Okay. Now moving on to 2230. If the state of Texas were to proceed to trial, the state will proven beyond a reasonable doubt on or about the 29th day of March 2022 in El Paso County in the state of Texas. The defendant did then and there unlawfully appropriate by acquiring or otherwise exercising control of property, clothing, hoodies, and the value was less than $2,500 from Dick's Sporting Goods or Herberto, Heriberto Fernandez Jr., the owner of said property, with the intent to deprive the property from said owner. Now moving on to the cause number ending in 2221, state of Texas versus Anthony Ramirez. If the state of Texas were to proceed to trial, the state would be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 8th day of January 2022 in El Paso County in the state of Texas, the defendant did then and there unlawfully appropriate by acquiring and otherwise exercising control over real property, to wit, hats, baseball caps of the value of less than $2,500 from Western Star Wear or Alyssa Gallegos, the owner thereof, with the intent to deprive the said property without the effective consent of the owner. Now proceeding to cause number ending in 2208, state of Texas versus Anthony Ramirez. If the state of Texas were to proceed a trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 10th day of March 2022 in El Paso County in the state of Texas, the defendant did then and there unlawfully appropriate or acquire the property, to wit, paper towels, paper products, a mixer, blender, coffee maker, kitchen appliances of the value of less than $2,500 from Target or Raul Perez, the owner thereof, with the intent to deprive the said owner of the property without the effective consent of said owner. Now moving on to the last one, which is cause number ending in 1586, the state of Texas versus Anthony Ramirez. If the state of Texas were to proceed a trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 14th day of October 2021 in El Paso County in the state of Texas did then and there unlawfully appropriate by acquiring and otherwise exercising control over real property, to wit, a blender, air fryer, vacuum, scooter of the said property of less than $2,500 from Target or Kalubi, Kalube Garcia, the owner with the intent, the owner thereof, with the intent to deprive the said owner of the property without the effective consent of the property. At this point, the state moves to enter into evidence States Exhibit 1 and 2.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Without objection, States 1 and 2 are admitted in each case. I don't recall hearing the recommendation. Did I get the recommendation?
No, Your Honor, sorry. That was so long-winded. It's 9 months state jail, all to run concurrent, in addition to the revo, which is to run concurrent.
Ms. Pages, is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
It is, Judge, with credit for time served.
Correct. And Mr. Ramirez, 9 months, is that your understanding of the plea agreement as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I understand that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your pleas. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal these cases except on matters raised by written motion and ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document I'm going to ask you about is the one-page document entitled The Trial Court Certification of Your Right to Appeal. Again, one for each case. It is a document that explains your appeal rights. Because these are plea bargained or negotiated cases, you do not have an automatic right of appeal. Mr. Ramirez, do you recall reviewing the trial court certification with your attorney and signing that document?
Yes, ma'am.
They were signed by your attorney and signed by the court as well. So on all of the non-probation cases, on your pleas of guilty and the evidence introduced, I will accept your pleas and at this time find the evidence substantiates your guilt. In cause numbers ending 2210, 2230, 2221, 2208, and 1586, I will find you guilty of the offense of theft of property in an amount less than $2,500 with 2 or more previous convictions. And I will sentence you according to the plea agreement to 9 months confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice State Jail Facility. You will receive credit for any and all time that you have served, and those sentences will run concurrent with one another and will run concurrent with cause number 2019-0D04515. Anything on the non-probation cases? Counsel.
Yes, Judge, but actually, if I can go ahead and let the court know once he does his plea of truth, since it's also a state jail.
Sure. Okay. That's fine. So now we're going to move on to the probation case. Mr. Ramirez, I remind you, you are still under oath, and we've gone over several different questions with respect to all of these cases, but to include this one. So, Mr. Ramirez, are you the same individual in cause number 2019-0D04515 who pled guilty to the offense of theft of property in an amount less than $2,500 with 2 or more previous offenses? On, I believe I saw a change on that document to be that his plea when he pled was actually March 5th, 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, Judge, I believe there was an error on the date.
Correct. I saw a notation. Ms. Rago, can you confirm? I actually did not go back and confirm the date that he pled. Let me see.
I believe it's March 10th, 2020, Judge.
So the motion says March 10th, and then I thought the actual plea documents reflected March 5th. Let me go back.
I think the year was also incorrect, Judge, and I did change that to 2020 on the stipulation.
Okay, let me see. Let me pull up the. That's strange.
And Judge,
Correct.
I'm also showing that he pled on the March 10th of 2020.
Okay, so let me see. I could probably send these. Okay, so I need both Ms. Rago and Ms. Pages, if you can. Ms. Pages, where did you get the May 5th? Was that? I mean, March 5th.
I don't know if I got it from the judgment, Judge. Let me see if I can get it really quick on Odyssey. It must have been from Odyssey. Let me check.
And now I'm forgetting. Was that Ms. Melendez? Is that, did you chime in with the March 10th, 2020?
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
Then that's probably the correct date, Judge. Let me see. Yeah, it's showing on Odyssey, guilty March 10th of 2020. I'm not sure where I got the March 5th, Judge.
I see where you potentially were getting the March 5th, Ms. Pages. On the order for deferred, it said March the 5th.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So what I'm going to ask counsel, Ms. Pages, no, Mr. Manufo, I need you to return the Ramirez Stips waiver in this cause number to both Ms. Rago and Ms. Pages to go ahead and rechange that document. And Mr. Ramirez, the documents that you reviewed with your attorney reflected an amended date of March 5th of 2020. Do you recall that on the documents on your plea of truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The discussion here, what we're talking about is that that date may not have been accurate Do you recall when you pled guilty on that probation case? I can't imagine you recall the actual date. You don't remember whether it was March 10th or March 5th, right?
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's take a quick break.
What I can do